There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind.
It was basically a cube with inside of a sphere where the points of the cube were touching the outside of the sphere.
Roger. There's troubleshooting machines out here.
So this isn't anything that just is limited to the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
That UFO podcast is powered by Zencastr. Zencastr is one of the world's leading platforms for recording and hosting podcasts. Zencastr is a modern web-based solution for high-quality audio and video podcast production. With a full suite of professional tools, Zencastr allows podcasters to quickly and seamlessly record their guests remotely and produce their podcasts in studio quality. Check out the links in the show description to find out more.
This is David Marler, UFO researcher, and you're listening to That UFO Podcast.
So I've been working with Martin in Denmark. He's for Danish UAPR, and he's basically putting together a system with FLIR and prototyping it. So the idea, there is a couple ideas, but the main idea is to fund whatever project we do with NFTs. And so that's why, Dan, I was excited to see you have NFTs. You've made a few. That one is sweet too, with Lou Elizondo. I like that
thanks,
one.
man.
One. I think there's a huge opportunity, huge. And so a lot of people just don't understand NFTs, and I think it would be an easy way to crowdfund. So the idea is to basically, I'd like to send a satellite into space. So basically modify a SkyHub system. Basically it's like right now it's a fisheye lens that is going to point out something anomalous. And then it has a telescoping camera. And so you could do optical and FLIR next to each other. And if you separate them by like a meter, you can get stereo vision. So like those multiple points I talked about, you can get that. So the idea is to mount that into a CubeSat. You can buy these CubeSats like already made for like 50,000 and then modify it for space and then send it up and somehow make it so it can direct to the internet, just video, like nothing in between, like hardwired. No one can interfere with it, just like direct to the internet, post this thing. And actually the way the system works is it could be zooming in, looking around. And so the idea is you would get a image or video potentially of like a fleet of spacecraft entering Earth, right? If it's real, or you could use it to maybe go over Skinwalker Ranch, right? Maybe they want to buy some of the NFTs to fund it. And I would put like the NFT avatar like right out in front. I want to like 3D print the avatar and like put him out in front, like he's flying through space. Like that'd be so awesome. So that's the basic idea. And Dan, you may know. So I want to make like if we need like $1 million, we're doing initial cost estimates. I think it'll be less than that. I think it'd be like 500,000. If we sell 1,000 NFTs, right? We mint 1,100, and then we sell 1,000. And I would like to get some ideas from the community, like what to you. I was thinking 500 were like parts of the CubeSat, and then the other 500 would be cool, like normal avatars. There'd be like 30 aliens, 30 geese and ducks of different varying quality, Canadian geese. We go through all the geese, exotic species, a lot of explosions, right? Because chances are it's not going to work. Get some blurry ones in there. And then you sell them for whatever we need. Say we need $1 million. We sell 1,000 of them for half an ETH. And then if they somehow fund this project, not only do they get to keep the NFT, which hopefully will be sweet and go up in value, or maybe build a community would be the idea. But maybe they funded the first project that actually like proved, spacecrafts entering the Earth, that enter the Earth. How cool would that be? So, and it skips all the bureaucracy. You know what I'm talking about, Dan. Like, so I'm going to we make the NFTs, right? We make them. It's almost free to make. We sell them, and then the idea is it would only fully fund, right? People's money would only come out when it's fully funded. But then you sell them and it's random. So anybody can buy it, make it like half an ETH. So anyone can, if you can scrape together like $1,500 or whatever, you can help fund this project. So crowdfund it. And then there's no link, right? After that, the only thing we guarantee is an NFT, like nothing else. There's no bureaucracy. There's no, we're not sending you any emails or nothing. It's like, we're going to take, all we can do is guarantee you as an NFT. And then we're going to just try really hard to make this happen. And it may not, right? We're talking satellites and sending stuff up. Everybody already says it's, I can't do it. It's impossible.
That's what people say about all the coolest stuff in history, though. You gotta do it.
Awesome, anyway, man. Just to make the NFT project and to bring it together, I think we can fund it easily. I mean, my CryptoPunk dance is ridiculously priced. It's like 100 ETH. So if it gets to like, maybe I'll just sell my CryptoPunk. I was thinking to just sell it for a little bit more than what we need, and then just send in that one into space. So whoever buys it, he gets a CryptoPunk. And we'll put it into space, right? And then you put it in front of the camera. So that's the idea. There's a lot of stuff, but I have some pretty good contacts. My cousin designed the Mars orbiter. I need to get him on board.
Wow.
And then my other cousin, he's written AI before. Martin's done a lot of this. Yeah, he sounds very experienced. And Steve-O. He hasn't actually agreed yet, but he's my personal hero. He was an F-16 pilot back in Aviano with me and in Alaska. So I think he's agreed as well. He lives in Texas, so that's our link to Houston and talking to Musk. So the idea is we get this thing up, right? And then we just build a prototype, and then we go to Elon Musk and we're like, "Hey, man, you're testing the Starship. They'll be doing their orbital test next year, and so they'll hopefully need some test payloads." Right. And so we just say, "Hey, man, will you take this for free?" Or we'll send you some NFTs or something.
Chris,
I don't know.
I think a really neat way to potentially get all this on one NFT would be make an exclusive Brandon Fugel NFT for $1 million and just market it to one Mr. Fugel himself and see if he wants to buy his own Skinwalker NFT.
His own Skinwalker.
Yeah, before anyone else does.
The goal will be just video Skinwalker, and then, but at the same time, always be looking, right? Because I think in order to get into orbit, it's every 90 minutes you're going around the Earth. So like the idea is to have something like the ISS feed, but a little more focused on looking for UAPs. And so, I've been watching Kevin Knuth's videos. Lou's video on your channel was awesome, Andy, from last week, man. That was stupendous. Yeah, and I'm just going to say what I think his secret sauce is. I was looking, very interesting, right? You talk about, there's like this sub 200 hertz somehow frequency stuff going on, infrasound. I was just looking into that. Very interesting, because those are those super long wavelengths. I've been kind of mentioned in my last video. What is past the radio waves? And I don't know if we actually, I hope somebody knows, but I was looking into this and he mentions infrasound. So infrasound is less than 20 hertz, right? So super low. It's like thousands of kilometers. That's the wavelength. So I was like, thousands of kilometers. Okay, that's pretty long. That's state level for sure, and then the next one was 10,000 kilometers, is below 0.003 hertz, I believe. So super, super low hertz, super low frequency, and then 10,000 kilometers long. They called it ELF. I'd never heard of it. Extremely long frequencies. But I watched another interview with Kevin Knuth. He was on the Theories of Everything. That's a very, very interesting interview as well. And he brought up this 12 hertz thing. That's something like there's some alpha channel in our brain, but there's some frequency of our brain that's at 12 hertz. If you use an EMF program, all this stuff. So very interesting, which could be the longer waves that we're looking for. And if you look at an interferometer, basically it splits a laser. And then if one line of the laser is being impacted by gravity waves, then you basically impact the signal, right? So you can tell if gravity waves are going through. which reminded me of like from the Ghostbusters, that spinning PKE meter. I was like, holy shit, man, we need PKE meters or what? Like, this is what we actually need. Yeah, I don't know. He wasn't laughing though, Lou. I guess I hate to laugh. I guess I'm so new. Like I'm like the rookie, at combat. I haven't been shot at yet or hit or anything. So I guess I don't mean to laugh about these things. Obviously, it seems very serious. But
and maybe get in touch with Lou and tell him what your guess is. I think at this point everyone's having a go at it, and it's a little bit like when it's like a name the baby or name the teddy bear competition at a fair, and everyone's going, yeah, I think it's this, and I think it's this. That's not.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think what I think doesn't really matter too much. I don't know. I think your one sounded quite good.
No, I don't think that's it. Actually, he said that's infrasound.
He said simple. He said it was really simple.
He said that's one way. So he said infrasound is one way. He's like, yeah, that's one way, but there's a simpler and more cost-effective way. And he says, like, when you hit your head, you're like, yeah, of course. I think it's just a compass. I bet you have like, it's, because you look at these when they show up, I bet there's some serious gravitational waves. It's obviously related to magnetism and electric, the electromagnetic interactions that we don't fully understand. So I bet when they like appear or when they're doing something crazy and all these gamma bursts are going off, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just screwing up the whole magnetic field there. And if you just had like a 3D compass, like a digital compass, it could just point the satellite. Is what I'm hoping, right? So I don't know. I think we should be sharing information. Hopefully they tell me what it is. I don't mind if they get it first. Like, that's fine. But I think he will. I think they'll share it. It's just scary sharing information. Somebody in the group's always like, no way, we can't do it. So I just don't talk to the group, and then everything works out fine. So.
Well, listen, you're talking about crazy ass theories, and I use that language because on your own channel, Chris, in your most recent video, you called Chris's crazy ass theory on pretty much life, dark matter, and the universe. Now, if people want to see this in detail, and I think you need to watch the video to get the full impact and effect of it, absolutely be searching Chris Lehto's channel on YouTube. It's Chris Lehto. The links are in the description for this podcast as well. Go and watch that, and then watch his other videos too on the gimbal, go fast, and all that kind of stuff. But do you want to tell us, Chris, about your most recent video that you said has been it's been brewing for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I was very happy just to have really gotten it off my chest, to be honest. That was the driving force, I think, for getting out there. I couldn't tell how to. There was something I felt like I had to relate or communicate or something. I don't know. I guess in my theory, I talk about, how do we communicate at our level? And I think it's through thought. We do it through words now, but with Neuralink, surely we'll just get to direct thought in the future. So. Yeah, that it really just made it so for whatever reason, I was able to put all the pieces together at this point and release that video. I just felt lucky, essentially, and just happy to get it out. Like before it published and it was like processing it or anything, I like kept thinking I would die. Like something was gonna happen. Like I was driving somewhere, but it hadn't published. I don't know that you get like these crazy thoughts, but I'm just feel very grateful, I guess. I'm grateful for YouTube and able to put it out. I'm so happy with it.
So I love the idea, and this won't ruin it because I'm going to explain it really badly. But you basically talk through how Galileo, when he looked into his telescope, saw out into the universe, but then it was turned round and you look through a telescope the other way. It's like a microscope, and you look down, and essentially life exists on these different levels depending on size. And again, I'm not mathematical or I don't use massive big words yet. Podcast guy, that's why I do this. And you go from like these different structures like subatomic, atomic, then like organisms, little microbes, and then it goes up, and then you get to the point where you're like human, and that's where we are, which is stating the obvious. I think you say that as well. It made me think of a few things. One was the cartoon show The Magic School Bus, where basically all the school kids would get shrunk in a magic school bus and go inside the human body every week.
Yes.
And they would go round, and you would get to meet cells and organisms and all that kind of stuff. And if you've seen the Magic School Bus, they go in and the body is like a living thing. So again, but as the things within the body aware of the bigger living thing on the outside, which is us. And then what you're suggesting, Chris, is that if you take those up levels where you go buildings is next, but buildings aren't living as far as we know, you then take it to planetary, you go into solar systems, and then if you know your astronomy, astronomy, you go through your levels of clusters, superclusters, galaxies, universes, and are these just all like a Russian doll of life, where every time you take off a level or add on a level, it's just life upon life upon life? The other one it made me think of, because Magic School Bus is going down the way, was the end of the first Men in Black movie.
Yes.
If you remember when the camera pans out and it shows you our planet, the galaxy, the universe, and it turns out we're just a marble inside, we're just a galaxy inside a marble that a couple of aliens are playing with on another planet. And it's just how things just keep going out and out and out. Have I explained that in any way sensibly?
Yeah, it's pretty much right on. The big part is though that the life continues up. It doesn't. Yeah, like you mentioned, the key is it doesn't stop at our level. That's exactly what you said. Yes,
and that's something that many people talk about, how the universe potentially is a living thing. And like when you look at like neurons in your brain when they fire and how much they look like these vast structures out in the universe, or if you look at an iris or an eyeball, when you zoom in, it looks like like galaxies and all that kind of stuff as well. And it might just be that poetry of life that's the way these things look and resemble each other. But I do think you're sort of onto something with that, to be honest.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm happy that you and like so many other people have written me and just said they really agree with it, because you put that out there and you just kind of, obviously I was nervous about it. It's a wildly different theory, but like you said, it makes sense to me. It seems like something we can actually see and test, which I just see with the dark matter stuff. They're just going kind of crazy. Basically they're building this giant container of heavy water under the ground. I don't even know how many thousands of gallons it has, but heavy water is radioactive, water essentially. And it's to try and catch these ghost neutrinos that they're looking for. And somehow this will solve the dark matter mystery, essentially, because it's not really matter, right? They call it dark matter, but that's really the overarching name for the phenomenon that they're observing, that there's too much mass essentially that we can't see. Basically, there's all this mass out there that is invisible to us. And the problem is they're saying that it'll always be, or could always be, invisible to us, which is just crazy. And instead they're looking smaller, they're trying to go down to neutrino level, which I guess would give you some, it can give you some information about the higher dimensions, but you're just assuming that the dimension, the information you're getting from very small is correlating kind of directly to the higher dimensions, and that was the biggest thing is, yeah.
You used the word label there, and I think that's right, and I think that's a massive part of the problem we have in any aspect of, if you want to label it all as paranormal or phenomenon, is we put that human perspective on things, and ghosts, angels, demons, whatever they might be called, could all be one and the same sort of phenomenon, but they get pigeonholed, and through the decades and centuries, mythology and folklore creates all this different stuff. Even like fairies, for example. I've had a guest talk about fairies in the past, but what is a fairy? If you're thinking Tinkerbell, yeah, probably not. However, if you're thinking, entity or sprite from some other dimension, or who knows, maybe that's maybe not. I'm a little on with that kind of stuff. However, it goes into like orbs and all that kind of thing as well, and it's something Dan and I have talked about quite frequently. I do want to let Dan give you, he had a quote that he's probably going to have to read word for word, I'm guessing, Dan.
Yeah, I'll read it in a second. I sent it to Chris when he posted it because your theory, I loved it, and it immediately made me think of this one specific quote from a book series I love. But I just want to say I really love the way that you're using the language of dimensions, because whenever people talk about them, we always assume that we're going through this portal into this other world, another place. And that's not necessarily what people mean. Dimensional language, we could just be talking about shadow biomes above and below us, instead of, these complete other worlds that you can pop through where they have these crazy creatures and so on and so forth. But the quote they reminded me of was, it goes something like this. I'll try not to mess it up. Size defeats us. For the fish, the lake in which he lives is the universe. What does the fish think when he is jerked up by the mouth through the silver limits of existence and into a new universe where the air drowns him and the light is blue madness? Where huge bipeds with no gills stuff it into a suffocating box and cover it with wet weeds to die. Or one might take the tip of a pencil and magnify it. One reaches the point where a stunning realization strikes home. The pencil tip is not solid. It's composed of atoms which whirl and revolve like a trillion demon planets. What seems solid to us is actually only a loose net held together by gravity. Viewed at their actual size, the distances between these atoms might become league, gulfs, eons. The atoms themselves are composed of nuclei and revolving protons and electrons. One may go down further to subatomic particles. And then to what? Tachyons? Nothing? Of course not. Everything in the universe denies nothing. To suggest an ending is the one absurdity.
Yeah, that's amazing. I thought of the Big Bang, the singularity. And it reminds me, I've always thought of, and I've always kind of talked trash about the Big Bang, but quietly, because it's hard. And especially just recently, it seems like people's minds have kind of been broken a little bit, not broken, but the dogma has been, they're willing to think of other prospects, but the thing that surprised me about the Big Bang is, as I imagined, like a little cell in your body, and maybe this is where the idea came from, but I imagine like a little cell in your body, say like on your heart, somehow is able to manage, like, get together some material, and then bend light like we have, and they make like this lens, and they fashioned like a cellular telescope, it's kind of what I imagine. And then they look out, and they're like, yeah, I know exactly when Chris Lehto was born. That's basically what I hear them telling us. And I'm just like, what you're suggesting is ridiculous. I mean, honestly, yeah, I don't know. The fact that they could name the beginning of the universe, I don't know. That's kind of where the craziness kind of started. And maybe they can, and maybe it's correct. But that was the impression I always had. And that kind of brought that to mind. Yeah,
I tell you what, Chris, I think you'll appreciate this as a father and any parents listening, where I had a bit of a bittersweet moment as I was watching that video while I was sitting with my 18-week-old little boy, Harry, and he was holding my finger with his hand, just at the point where you said that nothing is actually touching anything else because of the atoms, and I just remember looking down at him holding my hand and thinking, he's not really holding my hand, is he? Like, it was just one of those moments. I was like, well, yeah, that's true. Science comes along and ruins it. But
he is for us,
Yeah, that's at our level.
I don't think, knowing all these things doesn't make living less real. For me, it makes it more real, I guess. But I treasure it more. I kind of feel like the sand, is running through. So I want to catch it. I want to catch that information. The information's going by. We're missing it.
Well, Chris, we're going to get to listener questions.
Sure.
In just a second, I want to ask you one more thing before we get to those. Being relatively new, like May 31st, I think you've given us the date there where you really got involved in this topic properly, and you've dived in head first, which is amazing. What are you most excited about where we are in the conversation at the moment in terms of UFOs, UAPs?
I was very excited. I mean, I'm brand new, right? Obviously, end of May. I don't know who anyone is still, So now I'm just like trying to study. I was very impressed with the UAP report, actually. The fact that they said those numbers, because you never say numbers, because as soon as you say a number, how much money you have, right? As soon as you say that, like, people latch on, they assign that number to something. So they're very, it had to get through all of those offices. So someone just like piled that thing through, because really all it takes is one person to say, or one of those offices to say, no, don't put in this number. And now they're going to have some fight, up at the higher level, whoever's going to approve it. at the final. So the fact that got through is I think seems like a new breakthrough. If you look back, I don't think there's any large numbers saying that we have anomalous events since Blue Book. Again, I'm very new, but it seemed new to me. So that was very exciting. That was exciting. No sound.
I get to say it to you this time, Andy, but you're on mute.
I am editing that one bit out. If
you're not
nothing
allowed.
else,
You have to leave it in.
That's the beauty of doing what I do. Yeah. So listen, we've had a lot of your time, Chris. I was just saying, and I want to get to these listener questions. So I've got a few for you, and then we'll finish off on the quick fire round as well, which I'm interested in because being so new to the subject, I wonder if you've got an opinion formed yet on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but can I finish one point though? I guess
please,
one point, Dan, you mentioned before we get started, is about the dimensions, right?
Sure.
I think
yeah.
It's so true, right? Even the words, we say dimensions. But if you think about it, getting to a larger dimension would be, with our current technology, impossible, right? Or getting to a smaller dimension. We can affect it, right, with certain technological tools, but we can't, transfer our perception down to like the quantum level, for instance, right? So that is where the dimensions come in, where you would need like some sort of technology or a portal that can actually take our size or somehow and maybe reorient, maybe you can retune the frequency, right? And now you can tune down your size. And so, but it needs some sort of portal. So you still need a interdimensionary vehicle, to get through, or to get extremely large. Imagine all of your, whatever we are expanding, into how would you even observe the outer universe? So it is a dimension. It's just funny that we can see them. I guess we're considering that another dimension will be something we can't really see into. But the only reason we can really see it is through this advanced technology that we've had. Electron microscope. You can't see an electron because it's smaller than the wavelength of visible light, right? So you can't film it with a camera. You have to use the size of an electron. So actually, they kind of like use Braille to actually like feel the top of the surface. Okay, so there's other methods that we use to see into that dimension, but to actually go there would require a portal, right? But we can affect it, and this is what I was kind of thinking was maybe these are really interdimensional beings coming from other sizes, right? So imagine we have limitless, you have 70 trillion cells in your body. I don't know, maybe one of those turns into some alien civilization. I don't know. And then they're able to get bigger, but more than likely it's the other way. If obviously this is just an idea, but from the higher dimensions or larger dimensions, maybe they are like sticking a electron microscope in here and like feeling the size. Maybe that's why we get all these weird quantum effects or something. Probably less likely, but just a way to consider that there are dimensions, and that's how it works. So.
That sounds like something you should be pitching to the Rick and Morty guys.
Rick and Morty.
I was just going to say, it's the Rick and Morty car engine one, right? Where they kind of go in the engine, and then they go in another engine that was in the world made in that engine, and it just kind of keeps going. But
it's probably not, right? It's probably just simple, like it has been in the past. We're probably just That's what I would think.
You've completely redefined the telescope for me now. I'm going to be looking through it, thinking this isn't just cool, a bunch of glass. This is a dimensional window that I get to look through. It's
crazy too, because Galileo, he saw the 4 moons of Jupiter. That was like his big thing. Is he was the first one to see, a moon of a foreign body. And so I was just messing around with my telescope, or not it's a spotting scope actually, and I had it set up. Because I was like, man, I think that's Jupiter, and I looked at it back in November, and I saw 4 moons of Jupiter. I took a picture with my iPhone, and that was before all of this. Just it's crazy.
It was a precursor of what was to come. Now, listen, Dave had a question for you straight off the bat, and again, being new to the subject, answer it as best you can. What is your best guess of where these UAP craft are coming from? Do you think they have any operational centres? And if so, where do you think they could be located?
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, it's a good one. That reminds me, what's that SNL? Remember, there was Saturday Night Live where the guy's up there like Schwarzkopf, and then like the reporter asks, in like a terrible Middle Eastern accent, he's like, "Where is your troops, and can I go there and count them?" You remember that? It's so funny. I don't know. So total guesses, right? Speculation completely. Like I said, if the hypothesis, if it is true, then what that would mean is it would depend on the environment we're in, but I don't think we're just floating out there waiting to get gobbled up by like some, other floating amoeba or something. I think it's likely we're in a larger system. And what these UAPs are is basically the same sort of interacting elements you would have in your body. So there's things that bring nutrients. There's, basically T cells, keep out foreign invaders, basically supporting what would be supporting our planet because for some reason it provides some benefit to the larger organism, right? Just like things in your body support each cell because it provides a benefit to the larger organism. So if that crazy ass theory is correct by some miracle, I would suspect that UAPs are like these higher levels. So they should appear like these elements appear to us would be police, right? So people in police uniforms come from the city, right? And so that is a higher dimensional level. And the way, right? Because those people don't want to arrest you. I mean, I would assume, right? They don't want to get shot at or do this dangerous job, but they do, right? They do. so why do they? Why? Well, they're forced by the overall system that has created them, molded them, put them in that role, and so they come out. What it appears as is the police showing up at your door, right? But the overall general system is it's creating order throughout the overall general system, right? If everyone was out there breaking the law, running all of our traffic rules and everything, the overall system would start to fall. So this is just a control mechanism. So the idea is it would be interdimensional beings that are similar to our level. So that's why, maybe why it's all humans, or at least not humans, but there are, they appear hominoid in all the accounts, right? Which always seemed to me like too convenient, and that's another reason I kind of wrote it off. Is you see like, okay, at a spaceship, we've been hearing about spaceships for decades. And then really they're going to look like that, they're going to really have two eyes and 2 arms and 2 legs. And it just seemed too convenient to me. But this would kind of feed into that. Whereas maybe it is like a seed world, essentially, where, we can grow on our own, but there are certain basic pathways, or maybe there's certain species out there. So
you're making me think of all these weird random things now. That, like, imagine the Earth was a living thing in itself, and this is just the Earth's immune system attacking us because we are some kind of virus against it. Like,
exactly.
But yeah, it's
like we don't know where COVID came from, right? I mean, it's a crazy thought, but I mean, it's solving a lot of problems, a lot of overheating issues. That was Lovelock's big thing. He wrote the guy. I love that. And what was he, like 100? He wrote his last book. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Superintelligence, I think is what it's called. Amazing book. But that was his main argument: is that Gaia will continue. The AI, we will have new machines here, new entities that we won't recognize. He said they'll look ethereal in nature, which sounds kind of familiar. And he said that really they'll keep us around. He believes because we will keep the planet from overheating. So basically, which kind of makes sense for the entropy argument, because if you look at entropy is always increasing in a normal system, you can also kind of relate that as, I don't know, as heat, maybe heat dispersing. And so maybe heat dispersing is the problem, and so life is there to kind of counteract this heat. So that was Lovelock's kind of argument in Gaia, or his last book after Gaia, was that it will control the heat, which may be against the entropy. So that would also fill into the argument that life is for decreasing entropy.
These could be some good chats on the listener call-in shows that are coming up soon as well. Craig asks a question: has Chris reached out to any current pilots, either in the Air Force or pilots you worked with at NATO, for any stories about UAP incidents?
Not really, no.
Any reason? Like now you've got the interest. Like
I don't know. You scared to reach out, I guess. I don't know. The buddies I asked kind of on the side said, no, I haven't seen anything. But yeah, I'll consider it. That would be cool. It would be awesome to have people out. You're asking a lot. The only person that's come out so far is really Ryan Graves and I believe someone else on the East Coast. But I don't know. Maybe I don't want to bother him. I'll ask. It's a good idea.
And you know what? I think you've got that level of respect. It's not me with a UFO podcast reaching out to a pilot I don't know or have any relationship with to ask them to appear on here and talk about UFOs. It's someone who else has served with them asking to come on and have a chat. And I've said one of Lou Elizondo's best interviews was with Terry Virts, the astronaut.
Yes.
And Terry, I don't know if you've seen it, but Terry isn't necessarily really interested in UFOs. And he's not actually a great interviewer. He's just naturally curious, and the level of respect that Lou has for him, the questions Lou asked don't necessarily warrant the amount of information Lou gives Terry, and you can just see because of the respect Lou has for him, he talks about a lot of stuff where when you look back at it, and I suppose from an interviewer's point of view, I'm watching it going, he didn't ask Lou that, yet Lou's now talking about an incident where a huge island-sized object appeared from underneath the ocean and swallowed a missile off of Puerto Rico. I'm
Really?
like, huh. So, but just due to I think that military
What?
thing.
What?
Yeah, go and watch it, honestly. And again, people have asked, and accent-wise, people struggled. It's Terry Virts, Virts.
Okay.
His YouTube channel. The interview with Lou Elizondo is pretty far down the list just because of the nature of that channel. UFOs aren't necessarily a big topic, so do scroll down it. It's one of the best interviews Lou Elizondo's done.
Is that the one you mentioned with Lou? Well. I remember you mentioned one when you talked to Lou. Is that the one you mentioned?
Yes,
okay.
That was the one, yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought I wrote that down. But
And Dan, you were saying?
I was just going to say Terry's super insightful. He's an astronaut. He when he was on Joe Rogan, he spoke about kind of how being an astronaut, it feels like you're constantly falling. And that was a quality I hadn't quite considered when I thought about, being up in zero G, kind of constantly having to stop yourself, kind of grabbing something because your brain says you're falling, But yeah, he's a very good human interviewer, I would say.
Yeah, he's no bias, which was great. And that really comes across in the interview as well, which I enjoyed. So yeah, people should check that one out, and yourself, Chris. Chris, next question was from Agent Black. He said, first off, Chris's videos in the last few months are required viewing. He has some serious fans who may not be vocal on social media, but his work is crucial right now, and I can't thank him enough. And the question goes on, how do all you former pilots feel when debunkers who have little to no experience claim you can't identify basic objects given your state-of-the-art targeting equipment? And I suppose we kind of touched on this earlier a little bit.
Yeah, I actually haven't talked to them. I don't know. I didn't. I'll ask my buddies, actually. I live out in Portugal, I'm kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Do you think they would care, or is that something?
I'm
that
sure
even
without a doubt, without a doubt.
With your time in the military,
I don't even need to ask them. Like I saw, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. To say and what he says, when he shows the go fast and he says it's a goose, he just doesn't realize how ridiculous it is. And then I made that video, and I keep getting hate comments from it. Because Thunderfoot made a video aiming at that video. But I leave it up because I don't know. I think I need the hate comments, just to like slap me awake again. And then, but B, I think all the information is not refuted, like they still think it's refuted. So at the end of the day, I honestly don't care, what, Thunderfoot thinks or what videos he makes at the end of the day, and I really learned that from talking to Avi Loeb. Or Mick West, and that's why I don't know what Mick West is doing really, because I don't watch his videos. I'm really just so busy, trying to think of stuff and investigate and watch other videos that I care about. It's really almost a waste of my time to engage with him. But I will, if it's required, or if he brings up a good point. If he does bring up a good point that can further the discussion or that can show me something else, it's good motivation.
And last question from Charlie. He says, at the recent AIAA conference, Ryan Graves, who you've just mentioned, presented some recommendations for air safety with regard to UAP activity. What recommendations would you make?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember what he recommended. So what would you do for safety? So basically, the way that's a tough question, right? There's basically three things you can do. So you can affect it. The best way is to system affect it, right? You literally design out the problem. So so that would work like if there is there's an activity. Say we knew there's UAP activity specifically in this east corner of the airspace, for instance. So what you do is you lock off the east part of the airspace. So you're making it so we physically can't interact with them. Right, that would be kind of a systems design. It doesn't make as good a sense. The better argument for a systems design is like pilots, when they go to reach the landing gear, since this switch is right under it, once in a while they hit it and it like blows up the whatever. It causes some serious issue. Okay, I just made that up. I'm sure it happened in the past, right? This always happens. They build something to find out later. So what the best way to do is to literally design out that switch, right? You take it out, you put it somewhere else, you remove it, right? So it physically can't happen. But if that can't happen, then you put like a little cage over it. You're doing it like a duct tape fix. And then the weakest, right, until that happens, is you procedurally do it. So you just tell everybody, hey, don't hit this switch. Although you're never going to think of this while it's going on, but you might get automatically ejected or something. So procedurally. So I think all they've been able to do so far is just do procedurally. They say, hey, there's NOTAMs out there, and that's it. Because, you have to, in order to avoid them, you'd have to know exactly where they are. And it sounds like they don't know where they are. So, yeah, I'd have to look more. So what I would do as safety would be go and investigate the 11 close passes they had. Look at those near misses. And really, that's your safety point, is that when they thought they were in danger or thought something could have happened. And then you figure out how you can basically design that out of the system.
Awesome, cool. So let's finish off on the quick fire round, Chris. Let us say you've been great with your time, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you as well. The first one is: do you have any thoughts on the Bob Lazar story?
Bob Lazar, yeah. I initially thought it was amazing. His all of his descriptions, like the gravity waves, how they work with microwaves used through waveguides, the E115, all the actual chemistry, physics he described was amazing. And then even like the all the secret stuff that maybe I've been through those programs, not obviously not those programs, but I've been read in on other things, and so he's obviously done that before. He's obviously knows the process, or he seems to know it. So it all felt like real to me. Of course I was again. It's been a 3-month like spin up for me. So it's been like constant.
Yeah.
But then I really, and Kevin Knuth, he mentions again, theories of everything. Kurt asked him why he didn't believe Bob Lazar. And so Bob Lazar basically made the argument that there's not enough information in there. It's basically not quite enough information to prove that it's valid. So he thinks it's not valid. And so it seems like in the UAP community, they disregard it, or they don't think it's real. So
I'd say it's split.
It's split. Okay.
Yeah. I think 50-50. As to those who believe it and those who don't. Dan, what about you?
50 to 115, I'd say.
115. Lol. Right. Next one is: what's your favorite UAP video?
Favorite UAP video? Oh man, I don't know. Like of the three, I guess.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
I presumed that anyway, just with being newer.
Can we
unless you've
include
seen something.
Aguadilla and
anything you've looked at.
I mean, the one that the most memorable for me is the gimbal. That was just unbelievable. I can't believe it. It looked, because I couldn't find exactly what it looked like online. It took me like literally 20 minutes. I just kept looking, and all I found was this picture from 1952 of what I saw as the gimbal. Because it looks, I've looked at it for so many hundreds of hours. It looks much clearer to me, whether it's not or whether it's fake or anything. It looks very clear. And when I went to find the thing that I thought I was looking at it, the only picture I could find was from 1952. You know, which kind of blew my mind away. Like the memes have changed, you know, or like the memes didn't put the saucer there, you know, the classic saucer, which is what the gimbal was. So that one just blew me away. I mean, the Tic Tac's got to be. No one expected the Tic Tac. You know, I mean, what you could make up a lot of things, but really a Tic Tac thing that flips around and like tumbles around. That's just crazy. So yeah, that's the one that really changed my mind. The Nimitz, you know, that opened it up that this was even possible. Was that Nimitz encounter, the way he can relate it, and then all the supporting stuff. Kevin Day, you know, you go and watch. Kevin Day did an amazing thing to make that happen. You know, everybody calls it like the Fravor incident, you know, and all that. But Kevin Day, man, he's the one vectored him over. So it should be called like the Kevin Day incident, you know. But anyway,
I'm sure Kevin would appreciate that. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I want to talk to him. I don't know. I've been trying to meet up with Gary Voorhees. You know, I kept saying I'd do a Nimitz dive, but then I see there's so many interviews. So I've been like trying to watch all these interviews. I don't want to ask him the same questions. But hopefully I get him on. I want to get him on one live stream.
Again, Gary's a good guy. I was texting him last night as well. So yeah, I got on with Gary.
Cool.
What's your thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch?
I honestly just learned about Skinwalker Ranch like 2 days ago. You know, I guess it must be amazing to you guys. Like, how do you?
No.
How do I not know
like
all
this.
this stuff? I'm
right.
like Skinwalker Ranch.
Because
I'd heard of it. I'd heard of people saying Skinwalker Ranch. I'm like, what? Is this like a brothel somewhere out in Las Vegas? You know, I have no idea. Like, I literally thought, is it a brothel? You know,
Chris. But let me tell you, like. I like you have a fresh perspective on it though, and I mean extremely fresh. You've literally just opened the packet, But we speak to people who are experts or who have a bias or who have been involved in it for. I mean, we've spoken to the owner, we've spoken to Brandon, we've spoken to Thomas Winterton and Brian Arnold, who's security on the ranch. So they've all got these really unique perspectives. But to speak to someone who is just dipping their toe in the water of it, it'll be interesting to hear what your thoughts. From the little you've heard, but then do you know what, in the future, just to see as it develops, like, do you still think there is something going on, multiple things going on, or is it a bit of a damp squib? But what's your initial thoughts?
I thought I watched Travis Taylor's interview, and it was I was surprised by some of the comments. You know, interesting was the gamma. I was surprised by he had gamma radiation burns. You know, gamma comes from it's the smallest wavelength, actually. You know, so it's just so interesting. We're looking at, I don't know, maybe the largest wavelength creates the smallest, or we have the largest wavelength and the smallest wavelength somehow are there, you know, or, you know, if you have less than 20 hertz infrasound, and then somehow you also have gamma radiation at the same place. Yeah, that was very interesting to me. I thought that was interesting. And then you hear about Lou Elizondo saying that, you know, he's heard of everything at the Skinwalker Ranch. And then Kevin Knuth in the interview I just watched last night saying he can't explain half the things. So yeah, sounds amazing. You know,
there's a few good there's a few good documentaries on it. Jeremy Corbell's documentary is good and covers a lot of ground, and there's a few more. I think Amazon Prime's got one on there as well. So yeah, there's plenty of content, and of course the History Channel show that we've talked about a few times. Like, there are times where you're filming a dramatization at times of an ongoing scientific experiment. So you know, there's only so much digging a hole can be spread out over 45 minutes of an episode.
Yeah.
So maybe start with the documentaries, and then if you're really, I was going to say digging it, but that's a pun. If you're really enjoying the concept and the show and the history and the lore, then go into the show and start looking at that. But yeah, documentaries are a good place to start.
The documentary is the best. Yeah, the Skinwalker Ranch documentary.
Yeah, there's two good ones to watch.
Cool.
Something you touched on earlier when we were talking about sensors actually reminded me of something from Skinwalker. Maybe this will whet your appetite enough to jump into the show. But at one point, they say that you're not meant to dig on the ranch, and the bad things happen when you dig. So naturally, they start digging, and when they do that, there are a few people kind of far from the dig site have compasses, and the compasses all start to point towards the dig site. Right. And yeah, you kind of touched on that earlier. I thought it was worth throwing in.
Oh man, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's the simplest thing I could think of. Simplest. It's got to be it. Sorry.
That's where Dan's good for his memory on this stuff, because I don't remember anything like that. And do you prefer the term UFO or UAP?
I'm used to changing 3-letter acronyms, so UAP sounds easier to say for me, I guess. Sounds cooler. It's like newer. We're all, you got to rebrand. They do it every like 10 years. We get new uniforms in the military. It's just terrible. So, anyway.
And the last one, and again, this will interest me because you're so new to things. What does disclosure mean to you?
Disclosure. I guess that would just be the government fully admitting that it has extraterrestrial content or, contact. There we go.
Awesome. Listen, Chris, it's been great speaking with you. Before you go, do you mind just telling people how they can follow you and also find your work?
Yeah, the best is Chris Lehto at YouTube. So just Lehto, spelled the Finnish way. I also have a Patreon that I've just spinning up. I'm really enjoying it, figuring out how to use it still. But yeah, those are the two ways. So I try and keep it transparent. Is just ads, ad revenue. I don't want to do any supporters or any of that marketing stuff, and then from Patreon. So that's the only way I'm going to be funded, I think, in the future.
Awesome. And I'll have all those links in the show description
and
as well.
NFT sales. Yeah.
And NFT sales, yeah. And if you're listening, Brandon Fugel, that one NFT sale could make all the difference for Chris's venture going forward.
Put it in space. I'll put it in space. Like right out in front, dude. 3D avatar. I think it'd be awesome.
But listen, watch the Skinwalker stuff and then get in touch with Brandon. Do you know what, Chris? Actually, I'll send you Brandon's email.
Awesome.
You can get in touch with him. But Chris,
Thank you,
look
man.
forward to speaking to you again in the future as well. And Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris.
Excellent, guys. No, great to meet you. Yeah, anytime.
That is all for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to leave the podcast a review on your chosen platform. You can like, retweet and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. The shows are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak more and more. You can sign up at patreon.com/That UFO podcast to access the shows ad-free as well. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, That UFO podcast. Of course, on Twitter, it's at UFO UAPAM. And again, folks, as always, keep looking up. You never know what you might see.
It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer, more like a hubcap designed by Chaucer, a little baroque and quite steampunk, like Alice was playing bass for the Parliament of Folk. The little fucker hovered right outside of my window, and when I shoved out the screen, he made it an issue. I don't think he expected me to see his ass, but I'd had some champagne and smoked a little around. Meditative gamma state full on meta. You can't imagine how it could have been any better. I got to the top of the stairs and there he was. Like, you awake? I was about to abduct you, cuz. I jumped back and nearly kissed myself, and I climbed out the window after the elf, and I woke up in my bed and there was something on my head and everything was weird and everything was red. And I called out to my boys. They thought this was noise. They thought it was a dream. They thought it was my toys. They thought it was my problems, and they think I should seek therapy, and I don't know what to do because it doesn't really scare me. If you really want to know who I think I be, I think it's you and me and us and we and him and her and that and she and that thing over there and what's that, Jay? But for being serious, open your mind, consider your heart, consider time, consider your space, consider your lies, consider your life.